Bonjour, aujourd'hui je vais continuer l'histoire Awesome Fantasy Adventure, ok? Le passé ici, ok? He said Roland has a mullet, which is the worst type of haircut a person can have. I said the reason Roland hair is long in the back is so he'll look cool when he does action stuff. And Greg said maybe Roland can get a haircut at the beginning of chapter 2. Then Greg said no offense, but Roland kind of seems like a baby, and it's not really believable that a kid his age would sleep in his parents' bed. And that made me feel a little ashamed, because sometimes I sleep in my parents' bed, especially on night when there's a really bad thunderstorm. Crash! But I think this only works with kids because one time I tried it on my dad and he got mad. No offense, but your breath stinks. Greg said the book wasn't gonna be too boring if it was only about Roland and that he need a sidekick. I said maybe Roland could have a best friend who goes with him and his name could be Greg Healthy. But he told me everything about his life is copyright Greg Healthy. And if I must his name, I have to pay him money. So I decided to make a different sidekick for Roland because I don't want any trouble with Greg. Greg said he don't know if I could read a book about a boy who has to rescue his mom because that's a little too weird. So I could switch out Roland's moms for a princess and Roland could rescue her instead. But Greg said nowadays princesses are taught and knew how to fight, so they don't need some guy to rescue them. He said, if I wrote a book about a helpless princess who needs to be saved by some dude and I'm gonna get a ton of angry letters. Well, that got me kind of worried because I don't want to get a bunch of angry letters, but Greg said I could put my publisher's address on the back of the book and then the angry letter would go to them. I said I was just writing the book for myself and that I wasn't really trying to get it published. But Greg said if I was gonna to do all this work, I might as well to try to cash it. I said that if my book gets published, I have to think about movies and toys and t-shirts and swimwear and all sort of other stuff too. And that sounds complicated. And Greg said he'd make a deal. He said I could focus on the writing and he'd handle everything else. Then we'd split all the profits 50-50. I was excited because that meant me and Greg were gonna be partners. So we did another pinky swear to make it official. Chapter 2. Even though Roland felt pretty brave wearing Vampy's armor, he was still kind of scared to leave his village all by himself. So Roland went to see his friend Garg and the barbarian want to come with him. Roland met Garg when they were both little kids, and ever since they have been best friends. Since Garg was a barbarian, he was always using his muscles to smash things, and that's why Roland's parents didn't let Garg come to their house for sleepover. Garg's parents didn't make him read books or play the flute, so mostly Garg just worked out in his garage, and sometimes Roland worked out with him. And since Garg didn't read a lot of books, he didn't know that many words, but Roland always understood him anyway. Garg hungry, Garg happy. Look. Yeah. Ça, c'est quand il a dit. Roland told the Garg that the White Raccoon kidnapped his mom and that he needed some help rescuing her. And Garg didn't even ask his parents for permission to go because they never really cared what he did anyway. But before Roland and Garg could leave for their trip, they needed to go on the village and get some supplies. Roland used his allowance to buy a bunch of food and torch and camping stuff. And Garg picked out something he wanted to bring on the trip. Roland asked Garg to ship but as usually, Garg didn't have any money. The guy at the shop said Garg was going to need armor if they're going on a dangerous journey, but Roland explained that Garg doesn't wear a lot of clothes because he likes to show off his muscles. Roland used his last gold coin to pay for a map of the world outside the village, and even thought Roland was nervous about leaving the village that he lived in his whole life. He was pretty excited too. This is the map. Ça c'est le map. Ok, tu vois? As soon as I was done with chapter 2, I brought it to Greg's house so he could read it. I was a little worried that he was gonna like Roland's best friend, but he thought Garg was great. Greg said Garg would make an awesome action figure who could say different phrases when you press down on his head. Garg action figure. Say 3 phrases. Garg happy, Garg angry, and Garg gazy. Ok? Alors, aujourd'hui, je vais raconter ici. Ok? Alors, je vais vous voir demain. Au revoir.